Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have the newly released Stature, and more so looking at, is she going to be good? Stature has a very Miles Morales-like ability in that if a certain condition is met, her cost is reduced down to 1. Now this has some advantages against like a Death Wave, for instance, because her cost stays at 1, even though Wave sets all the rest of your cards to 4. So you can play multiple cards on that last turn against a Death Wave, and it's going to be a lot harder for them to guarantee that they can win. Stature has a couple of advantages compared to a Miles Morales, because her effect, if it is triggered, is active for the rest of the game. Miles Morales only has that reduction for that one turn after that condition is met. So Stature gets her cost reduction if the opponent has discarded a card this game. So there's a few ways to meet this condition. We have our Moon Knight and our Black Bolt, both of which would reduce Stature's cost. We have sometimes a Sokovia is going to give you sneaky value and just allow you to play your Stature for 1. And so you can decide if you want to hold it until the last turn, if you want to play it out a little bit early to get some tempo. You just have a lot of flexibility in how and where you can play it. And then of course the last one, if they're running a discard or a value deck and they discard a card by themselves, then all of a sudden your Stature gains that value as well. So the rest of the deck is kind of formed around the core that Freddy Babes build. I covered it a few videos back. I'll leave a link in the description. But overall, this list wants to avoid Shang-Chi's by not allowing anything to get above 8 power, because that puts it within Shang-Chi range. And so if you use Iron Fist into your Vulture, that's only going to be an 8 power card, and that would trigger your Miles Morales. Your Calling Wing discarding your Swarm allows you to block against like arrow placements, so that you can flood the entire board. You can make sure that your spaces are completely capped, and it makes it a lot harder for your opponent to maneuver your cards around the board. Now, one thing I've taken out of this version to slot in the Stature is the Shang-Chi. I originally didn't have Iron Fist or Vulture in this build, and instead I had a Maximus and a Shang-Chi. However, I wasn't running into a lot of really tall decks. I was running into a lot of Thanos decks and just testing decks. And so I didn't actually get much value out of the Shang-Chi. And so because of that, I added back in the Iron Fist that allows you to trigger your Miles Morales an additional way. Plus the Vulture being 8 power is huge value for a 3-cost card. If you're running into a lot of really big cards, so like your Shuri decks, you might take those 2 back out. But as it is right now, the only way that I'm able to compete against a Shuri deck with this list is either using an arrow to displace their cards on that last turn, so maneuvering their Arnim Zola out of the lane they want it to be in, maneuvering their Taskmaster out of the lane they want it to be in, hoping to hit a key target with our Moon Knight discard or our Black Bolt discard, but all of those are just chances. I would say that Shuri is still definitely favored, but this list is going to be a bit more consistent. It doesn't rely on having any one particular card to be able to get value onto the board. And so with the brief deck explanation out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so first up we have Draco Chaos. The first location is Tinker's Workshop, so we have 1 additional energy this turn. We don't have anything that we're going to play. We do draw into our Swarm, so if we can get our Calling Wing or maybe a lucky Moon Knight discard, very unlikely for the Moon Knight, then we can get some value from the Swarms. We do start with Stature in our hand, so if they either discard a card or we force them into discarding a card, we get a lot of value. Now they're running a Thanos deck. Thanos is, he was already all over the meta before his buff came in. And now we're seeing him even more consistently. So I see Thanos so very often. It's kind of unfortunate how frequently we see Thanos. They can play a 4-cost card this turn because of the Time Stone. So we don't have to worry about a leech play just yet. But once we are on turn 5, we probably go ahead and just play the Killmonger to make sure that any kind of leech play cannot affect us. We are going to play players into the vault, and they, I thought they were going, okay. So they have the destruction version of the deck. Interesting. So potentially a Stature, if we force them to discard a card, is going to be good against their wave. The Black Bolt can help us do that. We also need a decent amount of cards into the vault before that to make sure we get as much value as possible. So knowing that next turn we're going to go with the Black Bolt play, I think we're going to stick the Lizard and the Swarm into the vault. Now, if they do end up capping it out after turn 5, they play Wave this turn. Interesting. Interesting that they played it so early. Now, we do get our Calling Wing, but we wouldn't have had time to use it anyways. Are they going They better not be going Galactus on us. We're going to play it into mid. I don't know that we need to. but I feel like we should. If we draw into our arrow next turn, if we top deck our arrow, we're going to be able to pull their cards to one side while playing Stature on the other to be able to win that last lane if we can lock down mid. The good thing about Wave here is that Black Bolt has an equal chance of discarding all of their any of their cards. It doesn't matter which one. And so we discard their She-Hulk, which is great. Galactus. They do Galactus us. Oh, man. It's the Thanos Galactus again. What is with this Thanos Galactus deck? I mean, we have 4 cards we can potentially hit if they max out this lane. I think we get a lot of Gambit value that we got from the camp. I want to stay in this one. Normally with Galactus we retreat, but I think we have an okay shot. So okay, Cloak, and then Power Stone, and then Cerebro. What kind of deck are you running, Draco? Let's see what the Gambit ends up hitting. Oh, it hits their Cloak, which is huge. So now we have the Calling Wing and then the massive Stature coming down, allowing us to overcome this very unique Galactus deck. I'm not sure what the ultimate playline is. Oh, the Cerebro came from the camp. So that's not normally in their build, but everything else is very interesting to see. We'll go ahead and take it. I don't feel great about it, but we found a way to win. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Asher Marks. And in our starting hand, we do have our Calling Wing and Swarm, so we get some incredible value there. We have the Killmonger, so if they don't end up armoring their Sunspot lane, we get some incredible value there. We have our Miles Morales, so if we end up moving a card or they end up moving a card, again, incredible value there. Phenomenal value, you might say. So we have the free Swarms we can play, and we're going to dump those before the end of turn 5, before we switch hands. Stature here is interesting. Let's go with the Hail Mary Moon Knight. We have 2 chances that it discards into a decent discard of our Swarms. Two chances that it kind of hurts us a little bit. But we could get some... Okay, they lose their Jubilee, so that's fine. Goodbye, Stature. It was fun knowing you while we had you. So I think we queue up. I was gonna say we queue up the Iron Fist this turn, but actually let's bump one of the Swarms over to the side. We're gonna go ahead and play our other one just in case they play anything crazy, like a wave on this last turn, and then because of the movement, Miles will be 1, Killmonger will still be 4. We can play both of those on this turn, and so then they're only gonna have what we top deck this turn, while we're going to have a lot of their cards to play from. It could be the deck that wants to lean into the She-Hulk and the Infinite, so maybe they have a magic that they're going to play into this middle location. But if so, I think we're okay. We're going to only send them Black Bolt, and so if they don't change this location, we're perfectly fine. We're going to take out their big Sunspot because they haven't protected it. A lot of people have gotten really greedy with Sunspot because outside of Death Wave, you don't see a lot of Killmongers. And so I think they do run the magic in the middle location. No, it's a vision. Amazing. And so they will have some flexibility with the Black Bolt. We're going to switch hands. We have a lot more resources at our disposal now than they do. I think we just play Magneto mid. I think that gives us the win. It's going to give us the most power. They could move their vision and win Jotunheim, but then it comes down to winning one of these other 2. And we do get the retreat. So we will take our 1 cube, courtesy of the Mindscape. I think we probably could have gotten there regardless. But they did have the Sandman that they weren't quite able to either ramp or didn't want to ramp into, and we're perfectly fine with that. Let's go ahead and take our cube and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Mod. The first location is the Starlight Citadel, so we can use that to position our cards a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do the Iron Fist. Next turn we can do our Vulture. That's going to trigger our move component. If we top deck into Miles, that's beautiful. We can do that and Polaris. If we draw into our Swarm, we can use our Calling Wing to get the free extra resources. Ooh, so they go with a Psylocke. So they have a Psylocke. I'm going to go ahead and do Vulture into the middle location. It'll push it to the side. Now, they could be going with like a Electro Ramp Sandman style build. And so if they use Sandman, that's kind of scary. Ooh, okay. So they used a wave now. So now it comes down to, are they running Galactus? If they're running Galactus, where do they play it? Do they play it into the middle location? I don't think they do. I think if they're running Galactus, they play it to the right. We're gonna use our Polaris. I don't know that this is the best play, so if they're going with Electro Ramp, then using Polaris here is probably not the best play line. If they are going with Galactus, then this could win us the game. And so it's one of those really tricky interactions that you just have to make a gut call now. It is the Galactus, and so we do block the Galactus from coming down. So now, what other cards do they typically have? A Doc Ock, a Leech, and all of those I think will be fine against. We're going to do our Calling Wing. Do we play our Killmonger, or is there any reason to? Oh, no, we need to do our Lizard, so that Calling Wing guarantee discards our Swarm, and then we can do our Swarms plus a Stature, or Swarms plus a Killmonger on the last turn. We just get some additional value. And so maybe they Doc Ock into mid, and let's see what it pulls. Can we compete? It doesn't hit our Stature, unfortunately, but it does hit our Killmonger, so that clears up one space in the mid for us to play into, which is very, very helpful. So we're not completely capped out there. It's not a complete loss lane, and we do get the retreat. We had the nice arrow we were going to be able to play into mid, and then we already win the left and the right. And so we made a gut call. We blocked the Galactus. Feels fantastic. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Static Sheep, and they are running a Thanos deck. And so Killmonger value is going to be beautiful here. The first location is the Collapsed Mine, so we both skip to make sure that we don't get stuck with an armor in that lane. We do have our Calling Wing to guarantee discard our Swarms. We have our Polaris that can trigger our ability to use Miles Morales. If we draw into Stature, we have Black Bolt that we can use on 5 into a turn 6 arrow plus Stature. Just a lot of really solid, valuable play lines here. They do play Ant-Man, so that makes me very, very happy. Because they played Ant-Man, that tells me they were probably playing the ongoing version, so the one that runs Valkyrie, the one that runs a lot of one-cost cards. And so if we can draw into our Polaris by the end of the game, we get some insane amounts of value. So this is kind of tricky. I want to move their cards over, but at the same time, I want to run Venom because, I don't know, actually Venom's not going to be a phenomenal value in this one. So I think we do just move their card over. I was thinking Venom because in Cloning Vats, Venom is insane because then you'll copy his higher powered version. You can then play it again and again and just start snowballing very, very early. And we could play our Swarms endlessly. Oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe we do, depending on what they drop. I kind of like that because you can do the free Swarms plus the Venom each and every turn, which is really, really sleek. So they do have the Lockjaw. Let's go with Miles Morales into mid. We're gonna go with the Swarm Venom. That will copy those back into our hand. We'll have 6 cards. And we will have a 7-power Venom that comes back into our hand, plus the free Swarms. Just a really funny interaction with the card we got from the camp. Not something I utilize very often, but I think this is beautiful. We just have a self-generating power boost. So they have Stature that they played for. Did they play it for 1 cost? Do they have Stature in their deck just by itself? So they did cycle into Khazar. So we still are looking for our Killmonger. If we can draw into Killmonger, it's a little bit less value because they flipped into armor, but we can clear out this left lane and get a lot more benefit from it. So if they have their Valkyrie, this becomes a little bit riskier. Doing something like this. Let's do the Lizard over here. Actually, whatever we play into this location can't be hit by Valkyrie. We're going to do the Swarms into the Venom. That's going to become a really big Venom in this lane and in this one. And then we could do something like our Moon Knight and our Venom, our Vulture and our Venom, our Killmonger and our Venom, plus the Swarms that we're going to get back into our hand. We're going to be able to pretty much flood the board. Ooh, I did not anticipate the Space Stone that allowed them to move their armor out of that out of that middle location. So they do have the Stature that they're able to drop each and every turn, which is insane value. They flip into their Mind Stone, so they draw into additional stones there. This middle location, if they do use a Valkyrie there, becomes difficult to overcome, but I think they stole... No, we stole initiative back from them. They changed the middle location on us. Unfortunate. They haven't discarded a card, so our Stature is not free, unfortunately. What if we went with something like this? If they do Blue Marvel, then we win... I don't know. If they do Blue Marvel, I think we lose. If they use a Spectrum here, this buffs up this lane, this buffs this one up by 4. So they become 14. This one 2, 4, so it'd become 12. That Soul Stone is a difficult one to come up against. And so if we did something like, I mean, why would we even do these two? If we're going to do that, we could do this and it would bring us up by 7. We could win this middle location. But that's if they don't have a Valkyrie. If they have a Valkyrie, we lose. Killmonger would have been phenomenal value for us here. The Valkyrie, they would have to do Valkyrie plus something else, which they should be able to easily do. We are going to let this one time out. We're going to see this one through. They play into the left and middle. I expect the Valkyrie and the stone. No, the Thanos comes down and the Stature, and it is not enough. We are able to swing the middle location. We're able to swing Atlantis. I was sold on retreating there. I really thought it was going to be the Valkyrie playline or the Spectrum playline, which we had beaten the Spectrum playline. The Stature value that they got in this game is insane. It was an uncomfortable 4, but we do beat Thanos once again. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Mathologist Brad. And the first location is Hellfire Club, so if we do get the reduction in our Miles Morales or our Stature, then we won't be able to play it into that far left location. The middle location is Kunlun. So if we move a card, we can push it over into Kunlun, so like our Vulture. We could bump it up, but it would put him at 10, so he'd be within that Shang-Chi range. Now, the first card they play is a Collector. I don't think they're going to be running a Shang-Chi. It looks like a Devil Dino deck, or a discard deck that's running the Collector. I think we should be okay. I think we're just going to send the Moon Knight. We do have the guaranteed value of Black Bolt to trigger a Stature if we want to, but I just want to see what it's going to discard. We discard our Black Bolt. They discard... Oh, no. Oh, no. We should have known. What are we doing? Okay. Well, we give them some value in their swarms, and they rightfully snap, because that was beautiful. It's the 5-power swarms that now have a free discard. They are now 0 cost. That is unfortunate that we're only going to lose 1 cube. Ooh, we have instant chance for revenge. Now, we know that they're running a discard deck. Moon Knight is not going to be our play. That is not our go-to. We can get the value from our Stature just by leaving it alone. I'm pretty sure they're going to be discarding their own cards, and so we can just play patiently. We don't need to rush it, because if we do, we might end up giving them free swarms. So we have the Hulkbuster value. Like, that's probably our best play here. We could do Moon Knight, but we don't know what cards they have in their hand. So do we want to gamble it? No, I don't think so. Not after what happened last time. I think we're going to play it safe. We're just going to play Hulkbuster. They played Swordmaster. They discard their Nakia. We are not playing our Moon Knight. We don't want to give them any additional value. Now, because they have discarded a card, if we draw Stature, she is now a 1 cost. We can always play her on the last turn with an arrow. So let's go ahead and do our Iron Fist. Not into Nidavellir in case we play our Killmonger. We're going to do Iron Fist into Calling Wing so that we get the free swarms. We can play those in Nidavellir. We get some great value there. We just need to draw our Stature, really. That way we can get some great value from it. They have a Moon Knight, so they double down on whatever they had in their hand, so that's kind of scary. Their Collector instantly becomes 9 power. Not quite as big as a discard version that runs a Morbius, but that is still very formidable. Nothing to scoff at. They doubled down on their cards. I want to run Black Bolt, but it also feels like it's going to be that bad value. We're going to do it. We're going to do Black Bolt. On the last turn, we can do something like Swarm, Arrow. We're still hoping that we could top deck into our Stature on the last turn. Dang it, what is going on? Oh, why do you always have swarms in your hand? Oh, no. Well, we have 2 losses with this deck so far, and both of them have been against this swarm deck that, oh my god, had to get fast forwarded. Unfortunate. So many swarm. We didn't learn our lesson. Okay, so now we do not have Brad back again. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm glad we don't have Brad that we're facing. The first location is Mindscape. So we're going to switch hands after turn 5. So we need to position and play our cards a little bit earlier than we would otherwise. The Nakia is great value for our swarms if we can discard them. but I don't know that we're going to be able to make that happen. I think Moon Knight may be a bit better. Ooh, so they have a Thanos deck. Subterranea is awful for Thanos, especially if they're going with like a Lockjaw version. We're okay playing against the Subterranea odds. We have pretty decent cards in our hand that we can make work for what we have. Let's go ahead and play Nakia, and then we could do Moon Knight on turn 4 if they don't change Mindscape. If they change Mindscape now, okay, so they do have the Lockjaw. That's going to be a risky rotation. They could get a lot of rocks. Let's go with just Moon Knight here into the Subterranean lane. We have a lot of good targets for our Moon Knight, not a lot of bad ones. And so we're going to go with the Moon Knight. They snap back, maybe because they're going to be able to change Mindscape. We're okay if it does get changed. So they have the Mr. Fantastic and the Soulstone. We discard their Khazar. We discard our something. I don't even remember what it was. We can play our Stature here for some great value, and then we could do our Swarm and our Lizard. In return, we're going to give them Iron Fist, Black Bolt, and Arrow. Not great resources. I would rather them not be able to pull their cards across the board, but we have some really good tempo power that we're playing out if they let this one change. If not, then we have an Arrow of our own to pull their cards where we want them to be. So let's go ahead and lock this one in. They did snap back on us, so it is for 4 cubes here. Hopefully we can pull this Thanos game off. And when I told you guys that we see Thanos so frequently, we see Thanos so frequently. And so they do armor into middle, that's fine. They lost their Khazar. This has to be a Spectrum buff deck, right? I think this is the Spectrum buff version. So we have the big Stature coming down. How do we beat this? I think we do an Arrow. I think we do an Iron Fist here and an Arrow here. If they do use Spectrum, that buffs this lane up, but not this one. If they play their Thanos here, that's going to pull it over into the Lockjaw lane. And then our Arrow is going to get pushed into middle. So if they play mid, I think this is our best shot. I think Monster Metropolis, I don't think they flood more than 3 cards. Hopefully, and we have initiative, so they do play more than 3 cards, which is scary, but we are going to push our Arrow over, so we have a bigger push into middle. Oh, what do they rotate? They rotate the rocks. This is for 8, this rotation. Okay, back into the rocks. It's unfortunate. We need something that does not buff the rest of the board, and so we have a pretty good middle location, a pretty good lead in left. It comes down to this last flip. Okay, and it's M'Baku, so he's not going to be able to do it. He's not going to be able to pull it out. We get the 8 cubes versus... we get the 8 cubes versus the Thanos rotation deck, and so we will happily take that. And that is where we're going to end the video. So with this deck, while recording, we played 10 games. We lost 3. I showcased 2. We lost another one to a Leech that I just didn't play around, so it wasn't really a great learning experience. I just didn't play around the potential Leech play. And then the rest we won. One was against a bot, the rest were humans. And so overall, the deck list feels really solid. We didn't run into any Shuri decks, so that's still a little bit of a question mark. If you're seeing Shuri a lot, you may need to tweak and change it just a little bit. But if you're seeing a lot of Thanos rotation, this deck does pretty well against it, or it should probably do well against like a Death Wave because of the locked-in cost of your Stature being 1, even against like a wave play. But overall, I think the deck list performed very, very well. I think Stature is going to be great in value builds, and there may be greedier versions out there that look to double down on her, like a double Stature, a double Miles, maybe a double She-Hulk. But I don't know that those are going to be as consistent at putting a decent amount of power as well as disruption onto the board. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would say that Stature is great, but if you don't like a value kind of mid-range style game, she might not be worth it for you. You may wait until she drops down to Series 4, but I definitely think she is much more valuable than some of the other cards that we have had recently, like Ghost or Shadow King. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.